Good morning, all of my crew members on board the Adventurer ship. Now, this morning, we have already thought about the different items that we're going to take on board our ship for our voyage. And now we're going to think in more detail about what types of food we're going to pack to take with us. Because like we said, we could be gone for a good couple of months. And we need to think about a type of food that is going to get us through the entire journey. Because we don't want to go hungry. And we don't want to lose any of our crew members along the way. So we need to make sure that we've got enough food to share between everybody and food that is going to last for a long time. So to start with, we need to think about what food it might be that we're going to take on board the ship. Do you think it's going to be a fresh food? We talked about that a little bit earlier on today. We can't take fresh food because that's not going to last us a long time. It will last a couple of days and then it will all need to have been eaten. Otherwise it will begin to rot. So that's not a good food for us to take on board our ship. So we're going to need food that has a long life. That means a type of food that is going to last a long time without going off. So it means it has a very long date for when you can eat it before it would need to be thrown away. Now, 500 years ago, they wouldn't have had tinned food, like we can see, or food in cartons that would have had a long life. This wouldn't have existed 500 years ago. So I wonder what kind of food sailors would have taken with them. Can you take any guesses? It's something that they would have had needed to have made before they went on their voyage, and we're going to find out about it today. And that type of food is called hardtack. So we are going to be making some hardtack today. I want you to have a look at the picture. What do you think it is? What is hardtack? What do you think it will taste like? And why do you think that the sailors took this on board their ships? So pause the video and see if you can have a think about these three questions. Okay, so hopefully you've had a little think about what this is a picture of, what type of food it is. Do you think it looks like it's a sweet food? Do you think it looks like it's a savoury food? I wonder what you think it might taste like. What ingredients do you think we might have needed to have used to make this food? And like I said just now, the sailors would have taken this on board their ships because it lasts such a long time. And it's very easy to make, which we're going to talk about too. So, sailors often went on long voyages, and like we know, these could have lasted months, sometimes even years. So these long trips required them to take food storages that lasted a long time whilst they were out at sea, because they wouldn't have had access to going anywhere when they're out at sea to get any more food. So everything that they packed, all of their cargo that they packed onto their ship, was the cargo and the food that they would have had to have kept to last the entire voyage. There's no way of them getting any more whilst they're out at sea. So the voyaging long distances meant they were very limited to what they could take. Because like we said, this was before fridges existed and before tinned food existed. So there wasn't really very much that sailors could have taken on board their ships during this time. So, why did the sailors choose to take it on board? So hardtack is known as a survival bread because of its long shelf life. I can't speak this morning. So it's a survival bread. That means it can survive, it can last a very long time. It's a solid survival bread that transports well, so it can be taken on board the ship and it can be kept for a long period of time. And if it's stored properly, so if it's stored well, it can actually last and be kept for years. So the solid survival bread lasts a very long time. It doesn't get broken and it can be stored really well on the boat. It's very simple and easy to make, and it only requires 3 simple ingredients. So we've got flour, water, and salt. So it's also a very cheap way to create food that will last a long time because these ingredients wouldn't have cost very much to get hold of. So it's a very cheap and simple thing to make, and it can also be made in bulk. So that means you can make a lot of it at the same time to take on board the ship for all of the crew members. What is it like? So like I said, it's a hard biscuit. So before eating it, the sailors often suggested that you either soak it in some water or some milk. I couldn't find one of those pictures on the internet, so I've got an example of some hardtack soaking in some soup, and this will help soften the hardtack before eating it. So perhaps you want to soften yours in a bowl of soup or some pasta or in some sauce, or maybe you want to try soaking it in the water or milk before. So it's really careful that we don't bite into the hardtack when it's hard, otherwise it might hurt your teeth. So on the board I have got my recipe, my set of instructions for how to make the hardtack biscuits. And we've looked at instructions together before, so let's see if we can remember before we read into it what the different features are. I wonder if you can spot the title. Well done, the title comes at the top and it's telling us that we're making hardtack biscuits. Then we've got our hook. Do you want to be a sailor and make some long life hardtack biscuits to take on your long voyages? If so, read these instructions to find out how. So remember, we said our hook has our rhetorical question and then also our command. We're telling them what to do, our imperative verbs. So you will need. Let's have a look at what you will need to be able to make your hardtack at home. And I'm also going to show you these things in my kitchen. Let's go. Okay, so we can see the first thing we're going to need is some plain flour. So I've emptied all of my flour into this container here. So I'm going to have to measure out using my scales 270 grams of plain flour. You're then also going to need 170 millilitres of water, which you can measure in your measuring jug. And remember, you can use the scale on the side of your measuring jug to measure your 170 millilitres of water. You're going to need 1 teaspoon of salt, so that's this size spoon here, and then you can pour your salt onto the spoon. You're going to need a large mixing bowl to mix all of your ingredients together. Then you will need a rolling pin. Once you've mixed it all together, you're going to roll it out. And you will need some baking paper to put onto your baking tray when they go into the oven. So let's read through the instructions together. So our method, remember, tells us what to do, how to make them. Number 1, preheat the oven to 190 degrees. Mix the flour, water and salt in a bowl. Number 3, the dough should feel a little dry. So if you touch it with your hands, it should feel a little dry. You don't want it to be too wet. If it is too wet, sprinkle a little bit more flour gradually on top. Then use your rolling pin on the worktop to roll out the dough until it's around 1 centimetre thick. Then you'll need to cut the dough into squares. So you might need an adult to help you do this with a knife. And a suggestion might be 7 centimetres by 7 centimetres, but it doesn't matter. It's up to you what size you'd like them to be. Maybe you want them to be different sizes, and that's fine. Then it says poke holes in the biscuits using a fork, and then you need to put them into the oven for 30 minutes. And before you taste your hardtack, make sure that they're nice and cool and maybe soak them so that they're a little bit softer. So I'm going to upload the instructions as well as a PDF document onto the website so that you can refer to it when you follow the instructions to make your hardtack biscuits. And I look forward to hearing what you think of them. I wonder if you're going to like them. Maybe you won't like them, but I'm sure you will have lots of fun making them, and I can't wait to see some pictures of all of you. Have a lovely time baking. Bye.